recreating the scene from the award-winning surprise hit, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So spoiler alert if you haven't watched it yet, because first we're gonna start with some background. What's up everybody, it's Desiree LeCap, aka LeCapture, back on your screen with another video. This one is an exciting one. Most of us know Everything Everywhere All at Once and how surprisingly, not really surprisingly, great it was. Probably one of the most inspiring movies, not just from the storytelling aspect, the cinematography, or overall production, but the fact that the film had an extremely low budget at $25 million. Yes, that is considered low budget in the film industry, and yet they managed to depict an expansive multiverse filled with complex visuals. Let's break down how the Daniels and their team stretched their dollars and their creativity for this specific scene we will be recreating today. So a little background, it's the scene where the lead, Evelyn, jumps into the multiverse of madness, going through everything, everywhere, all at once. Nah, get it? No? Okay. Basically, the duo directors, which are the Daniels, relied on practical and visual effects because they had to stretch their budget, right? Special effects are all practicals, meaning on-set puppets, props, etc. For example, the scene with the hot dog fingers, they made that. The rock scene, they pushed that to some behind the scenes, and the talking raccoon, which was mechanical. Visual effects is basically all in computer with programs like After Effects, Cinema 4D, even Premiere, and so many others. Their visual effects team only consisted of 7 people, which is crazy to think that an award-winning movie had such a micro budget in that area. That goes to show anything is possible. Okay, so with this effect that we're recreating, it falls under visual effects. So first, let's talk about how they did it. They knew for a while that the sequence was gonna be in the movie, so one of the Daniels walked around with his pocket camera, capturing all types of footage as he was just walking through streets, stores, and literally anywhere. So he shot at a low shutter speed, meaning it added that in-camera motion blur. They then linked the background plates together, which means added all the clips he shot, sped it up, and threw it on these LED panels on the side of the talent in front of the green screen. Because their budget was pretty low and it was a small team, they didn't have those huge LED walls that we see nowadays. They basically had the 99-cent version, as they say. So they had 3 panels on the right and 3 panels on the left that allowed the lights from the clips to reflect onto Michelle, who was standing in front of the green screen from the video, so that way in post-production, when they added her in, it matched as she flew through. Now, how we will do it, we obviously don't have any budget, so we're working with what we currently have. We filmed at my place and we had my homie Jeremy being our actor for this because Lord knows I can't act. I tried. Whoa! I'm not an actor! Holy shit. And it didn't go well. Let's start with the background plates first. So at first I pulled stock footage and random footage I had in my hard drive that I thought would work to link together my background plates. But it wasn't working because also I was trying to do it right before the talent came. So then I temporarily used the scene and tried to cover the lead Evelyn by duplicating and masking parts out. More on that later. To film our actor, we set up the newer retractable green screen and lit that up. So a tip, light up your green screen evenly so that way you have no issues keying out your actor in post-production. In this case, my struggle was not having duplicate strong lights to light it up evenly and having the lights spill onto the actor. So we pivot, right, instead of panic. And we use the Amaran 60X, which is super strong for the size, and improvise with a light panel diffuser to eliminate the spill on him. On the other side, we used 2 4-feet nanlite Pavo tubes to even it out, or the best that we could. It did what it did, and although it wasn't perfect, I kind of hid the imperfections by layering so many elements to it. Yeah, more on that in the editing part. So as I was recreating this, I was thinking, Jeremy, he's International Spider-Man on TikTok. People know him as that. So I wanted to change up the recreation a little bit and put our own little twist to it. So he starts off in normal clothes, and then as he's going through this multiverse, he glitches into Spider-Man, and then he lands on the couch as Spider-Man. So that's the only difference with the recreation. Everything else kind of flowed through. So there was a few things on my shot list that I wanted to grab as he was standing in front of the green screen. So first was in his normal clothes, a clean plate with no lights, no projector, just the key light, the green screen, and him acting it through. Then I did at a low shutter speed at like 1/5 just to get that motion blur in case I wanted to use it. And my third shot with each outfit would be one with the fan, with lights reflecting on him. I use a Nanlite 4 feet Pavo tube, and I kind of just twisted it to create that effect of different lights flashing on him. And then we had the fan behind him as if he was really flowing through the multiverse. The projector was our way of using like LED walls just so it reflected on him directly, and it hit the green screen. That's kind of the complications I had in post-production, was trying to key him out, but we made it work and did the best we could. So yeah, that's basically the filming part. So now let's see what I did in post-production. Now we're in the post-production process, but before we get into it, I do want to mention a few takeaways, things that I've learned throughout the process and things I've learned about myself as a creator. The biggest thing is, honestly, we filmed and I edited this a month ago, and I was contemplating whether or not I wanted to post it. And it was around the time they were winning all the awards, so it was fresh. And I was like, I'm gonna post it. I got into editing the sequence and I just wasn't really satisfied with the final sequence. Second, because I didn't go out and film my own plates. I just used the actual scene trying to cover up Evelyn in the background. So that was one of the things I was kind of disappointed with in myself. But learning lesson here is to go all in. And even if you don't be hard on yourself about it and just post it for the world to see, because this shows that nothing at all is perfect and that I learn as I go every single day. Now onto the post process. I will be walking through the main elements from coloring and matching it, adding elements over, sound design, and any final touches that I need to do. So let's watch the sequence first. So not bad. I really like the back half first when he switches into Spider-Man, because I did add a lot more elements to that back half. All right, so first I'm gonna explain each of my nested sequences. My first nested sequence is my background plates. Like I mentioned, I just used the scene in the video. I tried to mask out Evelyn as best as I could, so I duplicated the layers and then I just added like this blur over her. Don't know if it made it better or worse, but you know, I wasn't trying to see her in the frame. And then towards this last one here, I just added some directional blur. Then my next sequence is what I cut up of Jeremy acting through. And you could see the imperfections and the flaws that, you know, lighting it up evenly is very important for sure, as you could see here. And it didn't cross my mind when I was doing that effect with the light tubes that I shouldn't be flashing green on him. So that's for green screen. I just added Ultra Key, kind of tried to fix it as best as I could. All right, so now we're gonna just focus on the front half, and I'm gonna turn off each of the elements that I've added into this layer here. So we're gonna start with the motion. As you can see, the keyframes are fairly simple. It's just going up. He's just being zoomed in and then being zoomed out a little bit, just to show he's going through it. And then from there, I did add another layer of transformation here. And you can see that it's a little more in there. So I scale him down, I scale him up, I move his position. I'm just scaling him up and down to make it feel like he's really flying through this vortex thing. And then I added another element of transformation, pretty slight as well. So I was just adding layers and layers to it. So this one is pretty subtle. And then for my next element, I added directional blur. So I'm gonna undo that. And I actually did keyframe it quite a bit here, and I masked it out. So you could tell I masked this out right here so it doesn't affect the entire picture, and it kind of just affects him. And then I keyframed the positioning of that as well, so it doesn't just like stick to one area. I usually would have done motion blur in After Effects, but directional blur did help a lot with this. For my directional blur, I blurred it out, so without it, you wouldn't really even be able to tell he's moving through without directional blur. So I'm gonna turn it off, and it's pretty subtle, but it shows as he's moving through that that's what it would really look like if you would have filmed someone at 24 frames per second. So I applied this to all of my layers here, especially when he was Spider-Man and he was going more through the vortex. As we're about to end, I added a ton of directional blur, so, you know, kind of reaching your endpoint there, and then you end up on the couch. I think this is where it started to really come to life when I began color grading it. My keyframes for color grading on the actual nested sequence is a lot. As you could see here, it's a lot. It's a lot of changing the temperature, the tint, the highlights, the shadows, because he goes through places and it's like it's dark and then it's light, then it's orange, it's blue, it's red. So I think that really helped with the overall sequence, is matching his skin tones and his brightness and overall look to the environment he was going through. So yeah, it made a huge difference. And you have light that's orange coming through your right side and green. So without that, it would look, he would just be red. So that's wild, the keyframes for sure. And then I added more adjustment layers here to make it seem, you know, a lot more. So adding just layers to it, kind of changing some contrast here. I added like the anime speed lines on the side, very slight. I just masked it out as well too, because I didn't want it to be so in frame, but I did want it to have those like speeding lines on the side of him. Without it, with it, and I actually masked it out just so it doesn't hit him. That is my element layers. So it was a lot of keyframing for position, for scale, color grading, Gaussian blur, and directional blur. So now cherry on top is really the sound design. So I'm gonna just play it with just an audio track that I picked out. It's so dry without anything. I'm gonna unmute all my sound effects. So we have that whoosh to kind of introduce the scene, because he goes back, and then the glass breaking. We have telephones, street noise, library, and then we have this rising hit that's coming. He's going through this wind, and then the rising hit. Power of sound design. Honestly, I think this was my saving grace, because I wasn't so satisfied with the overall picture sequence. The sound design did help a lot, along with the color grading and the elements that I've added. Never stop learning. Whether you are a pro at what you do, whether you're just starting out, especially, try some things out. Do things for fun. That's how you learn a lot about yourself as a creator and just generally as a person. Especially when you're starting out, there's that imposter syndrome where you're like, it's not good enough to post. I don't think people will like it. I had a moment with this one. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't even know if I wanted to post it. But to be honest, you're going to pick at everything that you do because you want things to be perfect. But fall in love with anything and everything that you do, because you know that what you could have done better with one project, you will do better for the next. So it's a consistent learning process. You're growing every single day, and as long as you accept that, then you're gonna fall in love with anything that you create. Because I am at that point. I'm gonna just let it out. I'm gonna let the world see what I'm learning about, the mistakes that I'm making, of course. Because as a creator, we tend to be hard on ourselves about things that don't turn out the way we see it. But then at the same time, finding that balance and being like, it's okay. I'm accepting it. I'm learning, and I'm gonna apply what I've learned to be better for the next project. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe, because I am posting a ton of filmmaking tips and tricks. Make sure you follow me on all my social medias linked down below, because there are short form film tips and tricks for you there. But yeah, this one was a really fun one. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see y'all at the next video. Peace.